We had our own Shiva Linga in San Diego, and huge celebration among students and friends and family. And I just moved, and I'm in between. And there's a Hindu mythology of Trishanku, neither here nor there. So I was feeling homeless. And then I got this amazing invitation. This happens to be my first temple visit, actually, after I came to Stony Brook. So this indeed is my first temple, and I'm happy to be part of your celebration. And when I left home, I was thinking of all these philosophies that, if you know, with Vimarsha, I was thinking about. And train, it's a 1.5 hour train, a lot of things can happen. I just thought that I should just, celebrate Shivaratri the way we used to celebrate in villages in Nepal by just storytelling. And so about Shivaratri, and Eddie has asked me, you have to tell something about Shivaratri. So let us see how much of Shivaratri we can talk about by bringing the very life of Lord Shiva. This is a story of love. This is a story of beauty, of Sringara. This is a story of union and of separation. And this is a story of the unrecognized state of Shiva and then the recognized state of Shiva. What is Shiva? If I'm the spark, Shiva is the firebrand. If I'm a drop, Shiva is the ocean. If I'm a little space inside a pot, Shiva is the totality of the sky. If I'm a drop in the ocean, Shiva is the ocean. I am a part and a parcel of Shiva that incorporates me and you and every single beating heart and every single atom in the universe. And we need to know that our stories cannot be too different. I mean the story of Shiva and my own story, because I am a mirror image of Shiva. And how can the story of Shiva be too different from my own story or your own story? And so this story begins on top of mountain. I come from a very mountainous place with a Nilagiri and Dhavalagiri and Gauri Shankar, and Mount Kailas is not too far from where I was born. And Shiva lives up there. And the daughter of the god of creation, Prajapati, just randomly encounters this Shiva being, and amazed, she falls in love, just goes, Daddy, I have found my partner. Just tell me a little bit about him, my dear. Oh, he's just amazing guy, rides a bull, walks naked, eats snakes and matted hair, lives in cremation ground, does some drugs, and what more do you expect? Mortified, the father immediately rejects this. This relation, affirmation, rejection, and recognition, this whole struggle of Lord Shiva and Sati is the struggle of recognition, just like you and I are struggling for recognition. Some are looking for recognition in society. They want to be known for their money or power. Some are little more wise and want to be recognized in their divine form, to recognize, to wake up in their totality, but we all are seeking recognition. And Sati, Uma, wants to recognize Lord Shiva, wants to be recognized by Lord Shiva, and so it goes. But in this happy union, which is called Ananda, Ananda is bliss in Sanskrit. And there is Ananda in freedom, because in the abode of Shiva there is only freedom. And in the freedom there is the manifold. We can be infinite. That's what being boundless is. Shiva and Sati are boundless. A single heart, which is the story of me. Me is Aham in Sanskrit. And Aham means Shiva and Shakti, because Ah means Shiva and Ha means Shakti. The Ma is the union of Shiva and Shakti. If Ah is Shiva, Ha is Ratri, and when they both unite, it becomes Shivaratri. And then Sati has this longing for her parental home and the luxuries and the recognition. It's a different type of recognition. Feeling back, she wants to go home to confront her father, the father of all the gods. But she cannot find that recognition that she's longing for. In utter rejection, she jumps into the fire and immolates herself. Shiva, after realizing outraged, comes, picks up the body of Sati. Then it's like a competition of who is who. All the gods are decimated, Vishnu and Indra and so on, all had to run away when Bhadrakali and Veerabhadra, the most ferocious forms of Bhairava and Kali, come in protection of Lord Shiva. Out of his rage, the earth trembles. And that is when he becomes Rudra. So arodit tadeva rudrasya rudratam, because he wailed, he cried. When you think that you are the only one to cry, you are wrong. Because Lord Shiva cries, and that is why we call him Rudra. So arodit, he cries too. He's like us, he has love and separation, and the death of Sati makes him cry. He carries her body and strolls throughout the entire subcontinent, which again is a mirror image of the totality. And all the parts of the body of Sati fall in different places in 50 different pitas, representing 50 phonemes of Sanskrit alphabets. She becomes Matrika. She becomes the mother. Now you can see she transforms into physicality. She becomes earth. She becomes the soil now. Now Sati is nowhere, but Sati is everywhere. There is no body of Sati, but Sati becomes the earth. And Shiva, bereft of the presence, of the touch of Uma, left alone, is nothing but pure consciousness, Chit only. He goes up to Kailas and sits in meditation forever and ever, for a long, long time. In this sheer isolation, the world starts collapsing, because it's only the beating of Shiva's heart outside that the outside comes into being. When Shiva dissolves everything, the world doesn't last. And the world starts collapsing. And all the gods trembled. We need to wake Shiva up, because we have to keep the world running. Yasya unmesha nimesha abhyam jagata pralayodayo tam shakti chakra vibhava prabhavam shankaram stuma. The opening of the petals of his eyes is what we call the world, and him closing the eyes is the dissolution of the world. When he sleeps, there is only pure awakening of singularity, and when he opens his eyes, there is an expunging of that pristine singularity into the manifold, and the world comes into being, and you and I start laughing and crying, and we become manifolds. And then Sati is reborn as a daughter of mountain, Parvata. Astyuttara Syam Dishi Devatatma Himalayo Nam Nagadi Raja Purva Parau Toya Nidhi Vagaya Sthita Prithivya Iva Manadanda. Himalayo Nama Nagati, as the king of the mountains called Himalaya. That's where Parvati is reborn, Sati is reborn as Parvati. A little black girl up in the mountain starts running, and for God knows who gives this idea, then she just comes up with the idea that I will marry only Shiva. Again, her parents, Shiva is nowhere to be found. My dear daughter, there are so many beautiful gods, but at least this time they do not humiliate her. And then Parvati, in her ardo, becomes aparna, meaning leafless, without even consuming leaves. And at the time the Cupid throws his flower arrows, Shiva wakes up from his solipsistic universe of singularity in a pristine consciousness, and that pure consciousness comes out in desire, in eros, in the form of Icha Shakti. Icha Shakti Maha Tripura Sundari. So this very will of Lord Shiva becomes the very will in the collectivity. This will in the totality has either a direction or has no direction. Shiva also wakes up with the will, Icha, and so also is Parvati filled with will. But look at the couple. There is the will of Shiva that has no direction. Shiva doesn't know what he wants. He's wondering. Parvati knows what she wants. You know, that's why women always know what they want. Guys are clueless. They're just wandering around. And then he runs into Parvati. And then she, worshipping Shiva to be her husband, Shiva says, why would you ever want to marry that mendicant, like crazy guy with drugs and everything? And then Parvati threatens, you speak one more word and I'll curse you to dust. And Shiva reveals himself, and there goes the union of Shiva and Parvati. As you can see, in the first stage of union, in the form of Shiva and Sati, there is an unrecognized union. A pristine form of bliss and consciousness, but the lack of total recognition, the powers have not been exercised, the powers have not been recognized. But when the body of Sati falls, drops in different parts, every part becomes a Shakta Pit, the site of Shakti. Her powers are now recognized. She becomes a formidable force for nobody to dare face her. And so also is Shiva is also recognized, because when Shakti is recognized, it's by means of the recognition of Shakti that Shiva also becomes recognized. Because without Shakti, there is no means of self-recognition. Because this recognition also is twofold. In my case, I want to recognize my totality. What would it be for me to wake up to this singular reality of Shiva consciousness? But there is also another recognition, the recognition of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva also does not know, just like I do not know. Bear with me. What he does not know, every single mode of new manifestation. You will like to say Shiva already has all these moves known and calculated. That is one way of thinking about it. But there would be no newness. Shiva has this newness. That's what creation is about. If you do not have newness, there is no creation. Creation is not a repetition. Creation deserves some originality. Originality is not simply moving like spinning the wheel. If you see a wheel moving, you don't say, what an amazing dance. For the dance, for the move to be a dance, you have to have a structure and at the same time newness. This is what creation is. It's not like every beat is predicted already. That is why we are new and original. We are not the copy. We do not surpass the totality of Shiva, but we are also original. It's a discovery of Shiva. That is Vishvara. In the Bhairava form, Shiva opens. Oh my gosh, this is called Vishmaya Mudra. Wonder. Because Shiva is also in this Vishmaya that is this my moves? Like, did I dance like that? Is this my dance? Because this whole creation is the dance of Lord Shiva. And Shiva is not repeating his dance the same way. Yes, it looks like a repetition. That's what the dance is, but it's not the exact repetition of the same moves. Or otherwise, that would be like spinning of the wheel. Our creation is not just a simulation of a non-stop, meaningless stuff, but rather a discovery. This is a process of discovery of Lord Shiva himself. Within totality, into the manifold, Shiva is discovering that this is me, this is you. Hantrecha haniya secha nama. Shiva is discovering himself in every single mode within the totality. And this Icha, in twofold, recognized and unrecognized, non-directional and directional, they both come to be one in the manifest forms of Ganesha and Kumara, Murugan. If Ganesha is the manifest body of Jnana Shakti, Murugan is the manifest body of Kriya. So as to children of the couple, divine couple, Lord Shiva, Ganesha and Kumara, complete that originality, the process that is intrinsic within that very singularity, that first it was in its singularity as pure consciousness, Chit only, finds its own bliss, Ananda, and that Ananda, multiplication, comes in the recognition of volition, Icha, and that unfolds in the form of Jnana, Shakti, the power of knowledge, and Kriya Shakti, the power of action. Within that singularity, within that Shiva, there lies this fivefold structure. And this fivefold structure is what we call Panchavaktra, 5 faces of Lord Shiva. And that is why if you go to Pashupati, we have Sadyojata for the western face, Vamadeva for the northern face, Tatpurusha for the east, and Aghora for the west, and Ishana for the upper face of Lord Shiva. In this cosmic dialogue of being and becoming, in unfolding into the manifold, there is this dialogue, never interrupted dialogue between Shiva and Shakti. What do Shiva and Shakti do? Manifest in the form of speech, Vat, and that Vat constitutes its own other. You know, when you have nobody to talk to, you start talking with yourself. Shiva also does the same, and that other is Shakti. And in that conversation, within the head of Shiva, that is called Shakti, there is this eternal dialogue in 5 Amnayas, akin Sadyojata with Kubjika, Vamadeva with Kalika, Tatpurusha with Trika deities, Para, and Apara, and Aghora with Tripura Sundari, and we have Shambhava, Vidyas, various forms of Kubjika with Ishana Vaktra. This dialogue is not to suspend ever. That is what eternity is. And agamas are not finite. When people say these are the agamas, yes, there are 92 agamas, 4 Vedas, but Vedas are not finite. Vedas are constantly unfolding. Vedas are constantly, we cannot tap into the flow of Vedas and we cannot see the process through which the Vedas unfold, but for that you have to become a rishi. How do you become a rishi? For you to have to go to the deepest state of your own heart, called Pashyanti, within which thoughts arise. You have to go to the source of your thoughts, and when you become one with the process through which your thoughts emerge, then you reach to Pashyanti, mantras start unfolding. You reach to the gateway through the fountainhead of thoughts of your consciousness, and if you abide by that, you become rishi, means seers, those who see Pashyanti. That is why rishis see the speech. Otherwise, we hear the speech, we do not see the speech. Rishis do not just hear the words, shruti, but they are rishi, they are the seers, they see the speech. It's almost like synesthesia, in the sense that in the deepest core of meditative state, you recognize your singularity, and then mantras start reverberating. You open yourself to your own manifold. And that is what Abhinavagupta is describing when he says, Nirasam sat purna dahamiti pura bhasayati yat dishakha mashaste tadanucha vibhanktum nija kalam Swarupadunmesha prasarada nimesha sthiti jushas tadadvaitam vande parama shiva shaktyatma nikhilam. From that singularity, that is Purna, full, replete. Because when we wake up, there is just fullness. As a child, there is just fullness. We don't have this sense of incompleteness, and this sense of fullness is what keeps us happy. And we grow up, and first our parents and our siblings, and then our colleagues and our partners, they keep reminding how incomplete we are. And they want us to be happy by finding something, but they keep always constantly reminding us how incomplete we are. And you start watching television, and then the adverts, they constantly tell you how incomplete you are without having so many things. And you become a miserable person, because your fullness is fragmented now. You are not complete anymore. What is that there? That in that fullness is just aham, there is just I am. Within that I am is you and the world, and everything that exists in the world is encompassed within the singularity of aham. When Lord Shiva says I am, it is for everybody I am. Among the mortals who took the body, only Lord Krishna experienced that. And that is why when Parvati calls him and he eats a little tendrils and says, I am full, and all the rishis are also full, because within the I am of Krishna, all the I am of the sages, maybe, Durvasa got so upset when he realized that all his students are full without eating any food, because Krishna ate, and what more do you want? Within this fullness, everything happens. When we were born, we were given this fullness. When we grew up, we lost that fullness. When we realize ourselves, we regain that fullness. The only difference is the first fullness was unrecognized fullness. I said there are two types of recognition, non-actualized recognition and then fully actualized recognition. In the innate natal state of consciousness, there is this non-actualized fullness. We are full, but we are not recognized. We haven't recognized this fullness. It's pleasant. We don't know why this is pleasant. But then we have to do all the yogic practices and go to samadhi state of asampragyata, and then we will regain this fullness. And this fullness that we regain is now actualized. And then this will not go away. That is why the first one had to go away. Dvishakha mashaste, and it had to split into two. Because then unfolding of its own intrinsic forces, these intrinsic forces, Ananda, Icha, Jnana, Kriya, they are within the singularity. That is what I'm saying. Within singularity lies this dynamism, Kriya. Kriya is not outside of Shiva. Shiva does not run out in the world for actions. Shiva is full, complete, and this is all the events are happening within himself. Because if Shiva were to act outside, Shiva would be finite. And that is not the Shiva we are talking about. So how can this complete even have any action, Kriya? This action itself is the discovery of the manifold. It's because that's why Shankaracharya thought you can't have Kriya in the absolute. That is why it has to be Nirguna Brahman. Abhinavagupta had to come to correct a little bit. No, this complete can have actions into discovery, in finding itself into many. But this finding itself into many is not an easy job. It's like having children, you know. You just don't know what you are heading for, and when you have it, you can't take it back. It's like that, you know, being many. Shiva also actualizes its manifold. And then once the manifold, we are Shiva. But look at us. I can't even convince you that you are Shiva. Sometimes I even cannot convince myself. Forget about you. So this is the problem, the fundamental problem of a non-recognized plurality within singularity. So as long as I do not forget myself, I am the totality. But once I let go of my totality, I forget myself, and to rediscover myself is an ardor. That is the whole game of the world, to recollect and to forget. A game of to discover singularity and then to accept or assume plurality. In this constant unfolding, Swarupad Unmesha Prasarana Nimesha Sthiti Jusha. What is the Unmesha and Nimesha? You reveal your true nature, then the outside world is closed. You reveal the outside world, your inner nature is closed. You can't have both. But we want both. It's not okay to just go to a sampragyata level and not recognize the world, not have the manifold. And that is where Shivaratri comes. This is the awakening, the night of awakening, not just of going back to that same singular pristine form, but rather to recognize singularity in the manifold, to recognize our difference and embrace our difference, and while abiding in this singularity, to celebrate our difference, to celebrate our manifold. This is what is called Bhairava. And the words they give is Vishwa Uttirna, transcendent to the world, and Vishwamaya, immanent. It's discovery that is perplexing. Most people will say that doesn't make, how can you be finite and infinite at the same time? How can you be one and many at the same time? You just have to drop your logic at that state, because this is where you are both one and many. This is where the totality recognizes itself as one and at the same time as many. And as many, it is recognizing as oneself, as me within you and you and you and every one of you, and as one, recognizing itself as all-encompassing pure consciousness, as prakasha and vimarsa, as light and reflexivity, as awe and ha, and aham, and as Shiva and Ratri. That is what Shivaratri is, the absolute union of Prakasha and Vimarsa, the absolute union of Shiva and Shakti, the absolute recognition of the fully blossoming state of this world within Shiva, the body of Parvati, that all the Pithas within Shiva. Now Shiva recognizes his own materiality. and Shakti recognizes her own pristine, pure mode of consciousness. How does that happen? Because as long as you are separating materiality from pure consciousness, you are not recognizing Shivaratri. As long as you are just starving to death, you are not recognizing Shivaratri. As long as you are not ready to celebrate your being in the body, you are not recognizing Shivaratri, because Ratri, the manifest modes of the world, is Sati, is her body, the world is her body, the earth is the body of the mother, and Shiva is within, Shiva is sapped within, Shiva breathes through the air. In every single atom, Shiva penetrates as space. That's why Shiva is called Vyoma Vyapin, Vyoma Vyapine, Vyoma Rupaya, Sarva Vyapine, Shivaya, Anantaya, Anathaya, Anastritaya, Dhruvaya, Shasvataya. What is Shiva? Shiva is the one that permeates the sky. Shiva is the one, Vyoma Rupa, of the form of the pristine sky. Shiva is one and Shiva is many. And Shiva is the day and the night. The night is the night of Kali, and the day is Prakash, the light and the expression of Shiva, of pristine consciousness.